Well, hello, everybody, again, and thank you for joining us for today's BU Professional Development webinar, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Owning a Business. My name's Jeff Murphy. I'm a member of the Career Programs team in the Office of Alumni Relations. Today's webinar is sponsored by the Boston University Alumni Association and is offered to our 346,000 alumni around the globe and all of our current students. Throughout your career, BU is committed to helping you define and achieve your professional goals. And we aim to do this by providing everybody with access to a series of valuable online tools and social media communities. As we just talked about before we got started, I know we have alumni and students joining us today from some very faraway places. I know we mentioned Israel. I think we have somebody joining us from Armenia for the first time on one of my webinars. I just want to thank all of you for participating in this and every program that we offer. We really appreciate it. Before I introduce today's speaker, just a couple of housekeeping notes from me. Today's presentation is being recorded and will soon be made available for on-demand viewing on the BU Alumni Association website, which you can find at www.bu.edu/alumni. Our speaker today is very eager to answer any questions that you may have, and you're welcome to submit them throughout the presentation using the Q&A box. Just like the chat, hover over your screen, one of the options you'll see pop up is Q&A. Just go ahead, click on Q&A. You can type your question in at any point, and we'll make sure that we save time at the end to get to all of those. It's now my pleasure to introduce our wonderful speaker for the day, BU Questrom School of Business alumna, Amanda Ma. Amanda is a serial entrepreneur. She's the founder and chief experience officer of Innovate Marketing Group, an award-winning live and virtual experience agency that provides full-service event and activation for Fortune 500 companies. Through her leadership, the company has flourished into one of the most distinguished live and virtual experience agencies, both locally and nationally. Amanda's vision is to help fuel brands to change lives for the better. Amanda has 16 plus years of experience in the business, events, and marketing industries, as noted by publications including Inc., BizBash, Meetings Today, and many others. She was recently named top 100 most influential people in the event industry globally by Eventex and BizBash top 500 most influential event professionals in the US. Amanda is recognized for her business and philanthropic work in the community. A collaborative leader, she is consistently sought out as a trusted strategic advisor and knowledgeable resource, and she's respected for uncompromising integrity and expertise. Amanda currently sits on several boards, including the board of the Entrepreneur Organization Los Angeles as the Diversity and Inclusion Chair, as a strategic advisor to the Diversity Advisors, Emeritus Chair of the Asian Pacific Community Fund and Board of California Events Coalition, and the board of Asian Business Center Los Angeles. Amanda, as you can see, is a big champion for diversity and inclusion. When she's not working with the White House or Secret Service, you can find her spending time with her family. Amanda, thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to have you. I'm going to go ahead and get my slide deck down. You can go ahead and share yours. But you have to get us started by telling us a little bit more about this White House and Secret Service work that you've been doing, if you don't mind me derailing you for just a second.
Yes, it happened through client of ours. So I think it was 3 years ago we did our first one, and it was really funny because at the time I happened to be in Taiwan on my vacation, and my staff call and say, "Hey, Amanda, the president's coming." I'm like, "Yeah, that's great," because we have president come all the time because we do corporate events, right? President, vice president. And she said, "No, you don't understand. President of United States. And Secret Service is going to send over their list of requests." And I was like, "Oh, that is very different."
That's a different list of requests. Yeah. Well, thank you again. Please take it away.
Oh, great. Oh, perfect. So I'm so excited to be here today. Like Jeff said, I've been in this event industry and really being an entrepreneur for the past 16 years. And that's pretty much 3 years after I graduated from BU. I'm excited to share with you. Here are some of the key learnings we'll go through today. My entrepreneur journey, I had several businesses along the way and how I started that, how to avoid partnership pitfalls, as well as the importance of building a culture. And then last but not least, I'm going to be leaving you guys with some community and also business tool tips that you can use. And if you pay attention today, because at the end, I will be giving something away. We actually do a lot of these events to go kits. Hopefully you guys can see it. So I'm going to be sending one person this events to go kit. So pay attention because I will be asking that question. And right now, Jeff, if you can help us prompt that survey real quick, I just want to get a sense of who's in this room right now, who's joining us, kind of in terms of where you are in terms of your entrepreneurship spectrum. Have you been running your own business for many years like me? Or are things are just really just getting started? You know, you're on the startup mode, or you're just kind of really in the space where you're planning and thinking stage, or you're just curious about entrepreneurship and wanted to learn even more.
So Amanda,
Awesome.
I know that you talk to groups all the time. If you had to guess, do our BU alumni and students, do you think that they fall in one category here more than another? Would you care to make any predictions about how this is going to show up?
I want to say they're already running their own business.
We've got a pretty much everybody has voted. So let me go ahead and share these results. It's actually the other end of that spectrum.
Oh.
Can you see the results in front of you?
Yes. Oh, you're just curious. Okay, that's great.
Awesome.
Very nice. That's good. That gives me an idea who's in the room today.
Okay.
That's awesome. Okay. So to share a little bit background, I moved here from Taiwan when I was 10 years old. So from there, we moved to sunny California, where I reside today as well. And I lived in SGV, what we call San Gabriel Valley, for when I was growing up. And I really wanted to expand beyond my bubble of California. So I decided to venture out. Yes, you guessed it, Boston University. I had an opportunity to either go to BU or UCLA or University of Michigan, and I picked BU. And I'm so glad that I did, because it was one of the best decisions that I made in my life. And from there, I had an amazing time at BU. And, you know, my family did tell me, we only send you there for school, so you got to come back after you graduate. So being the good daughter that I am, that I did come back. From there, my first job was with, for those of you that love to eat Panda Express, my first job was at the corporate office of Panda Restaurant Group. And I was there for about 3 years. And I realized, you know, I really wanted to start my own business. So I started my first event agency. And then soon after, I started a national Women's Day Out event that we really took it, started in Los Angeles, but took it nationwide. And then after that, I started another events agency called Innovate Marketing Group, which is the company I currently run. And I'll share a little bit more in depth about this journey I mentioned. So for a lot of people, they think, oh, success, you know, they thinking entrepreneurs is very sexy because you get to have a private jet and you have all this success. But success really, I mean, there's so much behind it. There's the hustle, there's the focus. And that's why I like this chart. I actually just ordered this for my house. It's an art piece. You know, it's the hustle, it's the discipline, is being okay with failure. Because I can tell you, being an entrepreneur is up and down, right? Some days we ride it high and we're like so excited. I just signed $1 million contract. And there another day when, you know, maybe something with a client or with an employee, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. How did I not know this, right? And talk about risk. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so we'll talk about it a little bit more. And patience. I've been in this industry for 16 years, and I can tell you I'm definitely not an overnight success. And so are a lot of other companies. It takes a lot of grit to make things happen. So this is the first company that I mentioned. It was called Fresh Events. And I really started this business because, you know, I was attending a lot of events at the time, and none of them really made an impact. Like my friends would tell me like, hey, you know, you say you went to 4 different events this week. Can you tell me about one of them? And I was like, oh, they were all kind of the same. So that's why I was like, someone should come up with Fresh Events. And that's why that was the first name. I had a business partner and we were doing great. We were on national television, you know, doing events on there. It was pretty exciting times, and we were getting a lot of awards as well. We really started with one client. A lot of people ask me like, oh, Amanda, did you already have a big following? Did you? And keep in mind, when I started, I don't want to say my age, but you guys already know since I'm 03, but we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Instagram. It's like just good old phone call, emails, right? It's a very different world, but we still managed to make it a successful events company. For this one, we really focus on private and corporate events. And then from there, 2 years later, I started my second venture, which is this Women's Day Out event that I mentioned, where we really started in Los Angeles with 200 people. And then by next year, we were going national, where we took it from Los Angeles to Miami to San Francisco. Who knows? Maybe someone in the audience have been to this event that we produced, and even New York, Florida. And it was super successful and very well known. It was gaining a lot of traction. And we were touring all these cities, and each city we visit, we would have, anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 people. How exciting, right? And we were working with big brands like Sexy Hair, Hypnotic, lots and lots of great brands. And I was riding on a high, and it was just so exciting. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm on a path to success, because by this time I'm running a multi-million-dollar company, and my team is growing. The events are growing. We were being invited by other cities to come to their city, do events. Our other division of our company where we do private and corporate events was also growing. So it was just so exciting, because it was just, like I said, we were scaling. But remember how I mentioned I had a partner? So we really started with a great partnership at first. And the partnership lasted about 8 years. When we first started, we had the same vision. We had the same passion about where we plan to take this company. So yes, we had a wonderful partnership agreement. So that's one thing I definitely, for those of you who are taking notes, write this down. In terms of partner, the key to a successful partnership is, first of all, make sure you guys have the same vision. Make sure you guys had complementary skills, which we did at one point, but then we did also have overlap, right? And then update your partnership agreement. This is something that I did not do a good job of. So when we first started our company, we had a partnership agreement. Great. Good job, Amanda. You did that. But what we didn't do is update that over the years. Because remember, when we started, we were at zero revenue. So who cares if it didn't do well? I mean, even at the time when I started, I was 25 when I started the business. I was not married. I did not have kids, not a lot of liability. I lived at home. So I told myself, hey, if it didn't work out in a year, I just go back to my corporate job. I was really good at that. But then what ended up happening, as you can see, we became really successful, 1 million, 2 million and up. Then that partnership agreement really needs to be updated in terms of accountability and how that will work out if things didn't work out. So that would be my number one tip for those of you that are thinking about being a partner. Fourth is a role, making sure like your role doesn't cross over. So for example, if you're really good at, you're like entrepreneur, you're really good at sales, you want to find someone who's good, perhaps like at the number or maybe operations, right? Because it's very different role and responsibility. It really doesn't work when you guys crash and do the same thing, and that's what happened with my own business partnership. So the recommendation is like, so that all the founders or partners really stay in their lane. And if you guys want a really good example of what worked, check out Orange Theory Fitness, their founder story. They actually have 4 founding partners. It started with 1 because it's her concept, but then she really shared how each of them stay in their lane. And I just love her story. I was like, I wish I knew about this 15 years ago when I had a business partner. So as you can see, so we end up dissolving that business partnership after 8 beautiful years. And I can tell you at the time, it was very devastating. Can you imagine just building up this multi-million-dollar company and say, okay, you need to now, I don't know, like get rid of it. It was my baby. It was my first child. It's so hard. And honestly, at the time when we were going, and then we even got lawyers involved, we just couldn't work out. At first we tried to buy each other out, and that didn't work out. So we got more lawyers involved. And then eventually the solution was we ended up dissolving the company, and we each just take the clients that we were managing. So that was I would say, if you're looking at my lifeline in terms of my professional and personal career, that was the lowest point of my life. Because like I said, you build out this wonderful company and now you have to start from zero again. And at the time I was pregnant with my second child. My family was so worried that I was so emotionally drained and, you know, borderline depressed that they were like, you really need to switch your mindset because we don't want you to lose the baby, right? That's how bad it was. So I was super sad, but you know what? At a certain point, I was like, you know what? My family is right. I had to switch my mindset because nobody can do that other than myself. I can look at it as an opportunity to do even better. And guess what? Worst case scenario, I could go back and get a job, right? And my husband did offer me I could stay home and be a housewife if I wanted to, but that's just not in my nature. I wanted to make an impact in this world. So millions to zero, that was very hard. I switched my mindset and I asked myself, can I do all this again? The hard work, the persistence, the late night, the rejections, the sacrifices, the doubts, the failure, and all the risks that comes with entrepreneurship. Do I want to take another leap of faith like I did 8 years ago? And then I'm happy to tell you guys I did end up making that leap of faith. And that's where I am today with Innovate Marketing Group. And now our agency is even bigger and better. And we work with some of the top brands like TikTok, City National Bank, Toyota, and it's super exciting. So I want to share a little clip with you guys on our video. So yeah, that's a little bit about my agency that, we started. Let me just go back to where I was. All right. Yes. So I do believe singing I love visuals because it just makes such a big difference, right? Like showing people what we're about versus trying to tell them what we're about. I'm a big believer that actions speak louder than words. So, okay, let's get back to our presentation. Right. So these are some of the brands we work with currently. And, honestly, being an entrepreneur is about persistence, resilience. And you may ask, like I mentioned, we all started with one. I didn't have a Rolodex of client that wanted to work with me already. I wish, but it was literally building up one by one. And if you do a good job, people will come back. And it's about not giving up. And so many of these brands, I could get, for example, East West Bank. They were a client I was after for 5 years. And they did not give me a chance until my 5th year in my business. And I told her, like, why did you take so long to retain us? She said, you know what? Because most business fail within the first 5 years. So I wanted to see if you survive that hump. And if you do, then you must be a pretty great company. And that's when they gave us a chance. And they have been a client ever since. And a lot of these, one time, one phone call, 2 phone call, 3 phone call, didn't open the door. Not, on average, it's about the 11 times when you reach out that they will respond. And there are other times you just get lucky, where it's like one time you get a response. These are some of our awards and we're super proud of, especially some of the ones that we received last year during the pandemic, like BizBash 500 or Event X. You know, like you do this long enough, it's no longer just about yourself. It's about the community you build and what the impact you can make in the community that you serve. So I love this one. Here are some of our events, as you can tell. And I would say, you know, again, the events just get better and better. And for those of you that are thinking about starting your business, don't make it so hard where a lot of time people think, oh my gosh, how do I become like the Amazon of the world? How do I become the Google of the world? Well, they didn't start that way, right? Like even for our events, we didn't start doing with all these really amazing events. We started with smaller events and really built our portfolio. So a lot of these, you see, that's the president event that I spoke about. You know, we actually ended up doing the president event 2 times. And then another time was the VP, Mike Pence. So it was really awesome. But it takes time to grow your portfolio, you know, and then just continuous following up and just not giving up, right? So that's what it is. And then you need the right people. So company culture is something huge here. And I invest a lot of time and money and effort into building here. And it's really fun. So you'll see our company culture is super diverse, right? So you'll see all these different nationality and we have a lot of fun together. And some of the fun ways to make your company culture different and unique, because there's so many events agency out there. How do I make my company stand out so people want to work here? In fact, I just interviewed someone yesterday because our team is growing. She's like, oh my God, I checked out your Instagram. It looks like such a fun place to work. You know, and I make sure to remind her, yes, we do have fun, but we also work hard. It goes hand in hand. First thing, building your company culture is having that big picture vision. Sharing with your team. Well, first you have to figure out for yourself, like, why did you even start this company? Well, why do you want to start this company? And then once you have that set, make sure you share that with your team, right? And then every few years, update it, reshare with your team. We actually just came back from a company retreat. So we actually revamped our big picture vision, share with the team, and don't just share it, but also ask them, how can you contribute to this big picture vision? Because when it's their idea, when they feel like they're empowered, guess what? You now have a team managed company. Because my goal is to not run this business myself. When I first started this company, guess what? I went to every single event. Now I only go to the big events. If it's 1,000 people and up, I'll go. Anything under 1,000 people, I typically won't go. And if I do go, literally, I'm just going and saying hello to the client and I leave. Right. And there's some events that happen even without me knowing, because the company can run itself without me. And that's how it should be. My goal to be an entrepreneur is not to be doing all the events myself. It pivoted throughout the years, right? Because at first I really started with, okay, I'm the event planner, but I realized, no, I'm not the event planner. I'm the entrepreneur. But how do you get to there, right? You have to hire a team. A lot of people look at hiring their team as debt because you're like, well, it costs $60,000 to hire someone, but there's only so much time in a day that I could do this myself. You really need to grow your team and they help you, and making sure you hire the right candidate so that they help you 10x your growth. Core values. We use our core values and our vision in all the hiring that we do, right? Making sure, you know, some of our core value include proactive, well service, fun and engagement, innovation, right? So all these, are they part of that? And then so literally in our interview checklist, I have a list that have core values. So if they don't check all the boxes or they live outside that, integrity is another one, right? If they live outside that, then that's not a candidate for us, because we want to make sure they fit in our corporate culture. They're aligned with our values, and it just makes that much easier, because now you have a guideline versus, I'll just hire anybody who's breathing and, you know, alive. What's your unique company culture? So we really built a really fun culture here. We have monthly culture events. I mean, we do events for a living. So I feel like we definitely have, you know, an expectation we need to upkeep. And the fun thing is a lot of these company culture we did in-house, when we found out these are like really highly engaged, really successful, we end up rolling it out in a big way. What does that mean? Essentially, that just means we end up using it for a client. So one of our internal company culture event that we used to do in-house, which is a Lego team building, guess what? In a few weeks, we will be doing that for Facebook. So we systemize that event, and then we, in turn, share with our client to see that's something they would be interested in. Boba Run. We all love boba here. We do live in Los Angeles. Hopefully, I don't know how many boba lovers are out there, but every time we sign a new client, I buy everybody at the office boba. And people look forward to that, right? I want it to be a celebration, not just for the sales team, not just for myself, because I do a lot of the business development, but also for the team, because we're in it together and building that mentality all the time. Foodie Wednesday, this is, pre-pandemic, where every other Wednesday we'll go out as a team and we will explore Pasadena. And we had to go to different restaurants and then everybody here at the office get a turn to, they say we just rotate. So if someone picks it, you just have to go. But they usually know like who's allergic to what or who can't eat what. So be mindful, for the other people that have either food allergies and whatnot. But it's so fun and something we look forward to. And I can tell you, I've been to some of these restaurants I would never go to myself, right? But I end up going afterwards because I discovered it with the team. Work anniversaries and birthdays, we make them a big deal here. I asked some of our employees, like, why do you enjoy working here? She said, because you guys make the little things matter, right? So we actually have a birthday anniversary, work anniversary coming up. So we have a certificate, depending on what year, certificate or plaque. We actually all get together and make a video for this person. We have cake, right? We just make a celebration. And then the mentality of working hard and playing hard. Events could get really stressful sometimes, or just running a business or being just at work. But we also make sure we have fun together. And that's why we had the company retreat. That's why we had the culture events, right? So things like that. And when you guys start your own company, you could think of how you want to make your culture unique so that people are like, wow, I really love it here. And that's a unique identity to your company. So these are our values. And we have these posted everywhere. This is actually part of our weekly meeting. We don't talk about it, but we actually do what we call IMG wins. And when we do that, we actually, try to use the core value. I would say, Jacqueline, kudos to Jacqueline this week, because we got a fantastic testimonial from one of her accounts that's truly practicing one of our IMG value, give wow service, right? So always tying it back in, and it reminds them, right? And you bet at the company culture, we somehow always start with what's our company value? There's only 6, right? But it's just constantly reminding them and ingraining them in their head. And something I'm super proud of is beyond just, the work that we do, but also the awards, and we're super community oriented. And I always tell people, yes, this company's only been 7 years, but my overall event experience or running my own business is 15 plus. And it's been pretty exciting. Mindset. I think we talk a lot about this, right? So 2019 was a fantastic year. We did another, president event, and we had lots of high profile clients. We started growing our portfolio with TikTok, one of our top clients. Super exciting. And we were just finishing the event in Washington, D.C., where we had the president. We finished a DMC event for the TikTok, where they flew in a lot of their major influencers to Los Angeles, and we entertained them. We built out the whole we curate that experience while they're here. Within a week, the pandemic hit. I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, am I going to go into early retirement? Because we are in the business of live events, which is people to people, and we were completely shut down. And it was such a scary time because, it was so much uncertainty, so much unknown. Is this going to be a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? And since we're at the tail end of it, as you guys know, it's been, more than 14 months. But at the time, it was so scary. And left and right, we have vendors calling us because they were being furloughed or laid off. We had a lot of clients call us and put a hold on their contract, or some even canceled. And I'm thinking to myself, I have payroll, right? So being the entrepreneur, while everybody's panicking just about their own safety, you're thinking payroll, safety, my family, like so many things are going in my head. And was I in a state of panic? For sure, because I never encountered something like this before. I thought that business partnership separation was the deepest point of my life. And I say, no way, is this happening again? But you know what? The great thing of being an entrepreneur is we learn fast and we learn to pivot. So that's exactly what we did, right? Because you remember how I mentioned about the mindset? So that partnership, so this time I did not let that hold me down for a long time. I right away, I say, I was probably, yes, I was sad. I was panicking probably maybe for a week. And then I switched my mindset. I say, I need to pivot. In order for this company to survive, we need to do something. And people still need events. It's just they need a different way of events and being delivered to them, right? So I got the team together, and keep in mind, first of all, I made sure to communicate with my team. And during the pandemic, we didn't let anyone go. So I, first of all, comfort my team. We send them home, but we say no one will lose their job. We have a company emergency fund, and that doesn't work out. I have personal saving that I can tap into. But what I need you guys to do, and what we're going to do all together, is we're going to try to come up with a solution for our client. Because I said, this ship is not going down on my watch. We're going to do this together. So the team put their brains together, and guess what? We pivoted to doing virtual events. And that was really exciting. And you can see here, we did all our meetings on Zoom, just like a lot of you guys probably have as well. And really try to figure out ideas, how we could continue to stay engaged. We did all cultural events this way too, but we did a lot of brainstorming. And through trial and error, there's so many ideas we came up with. I even thought about a drive-through event with the city that we could do from city to city, because people need entertainment, right? So I was like, oh, we could do like inflatables. People could do drive-through. I pitched out to so many different cities. Nothing. Nobody wanted my idea. Okay, I'll come up with other idea. Nope, did not work. And guess what? It was so much education also for the clients, because they were like, what is virtual events? How does it work? How do I charge? Right? It's a lot of these, but we figured it out, and we did that as a team. And I'm so happy to say that we ended up doing, all these virtual events. So this is a virtual conference. We pivoted this is a virtual holiday event. This is a virtual client entertainment event. This is another conference. And then these are the kits, like one of the kits I showed you earlier. We end up, a lot of these events, we paired it with a virtual event so that it's a more holistic approach and then experience as well. And, I'm just so proud of my team, because our hands were tied behind our back, right? Because we were literally quarantined and cannot do anything. But this is the solution we came up with. We came up with the idea, came up with a solution how to deliver events, but virtually, right? And still have very high engagement, still have very high ROI for our clients. And a lot of them saw success after the pivot. So now we're in the stage where we're doing a lot of hybrid events, even though it'll be in-person focused, but still hybrid, because they saw the success, they saw the reach. We never had a client in Canada, but guess what? In 2020, we had a client in Canada because we could do it virtually. And I'm so proud to say we end up doing over 130 virtual events since the pandemic. And not many agencies can say that. There are a lot of agencies I know, they just waited, and they're still waiting. But we as a team did this 130 virtual events. So I didn't lay off anyone during the pandemic. I told them, let's all keep our jobs. Let's all keep the company going, but I need you all to do it together, right? I end up giving bonuses at the end of the year to all the team members because the company did well. So I want to reward them and just recognize them for their hard work. So that's really, and then the company's still here, right? So very proud of that. And now we have two core competency. Not only can we do, what we do best in terms of event management and building this whole experience in person, we can also do it virtually, right? Community. I think one of the best thing about being an entrepreneur is I get to take out time and decide where I want to put my extra energy. So community, I'm always a big believer that you are not just being a business, you have a bigger purpose, right? And it's like a whole ecosystem. So bringing it back to a community. And one of my favorite things to do, to be honest, is giving back to community. And sometimes I have to remind myself, like, this is not my full-time job. Because Jeff had mentioned to you guys, like, I sit on many different boards and stuff. So, and I get so involved in it and I just love it that I had to remember, like, Innovate Marketing Group is my business. And this is what I do for fun. So we donate a lot to our community, whether that's monetary, sitting on boards, or we offer discount services, leveraging our talent. Even last year during the pandemic, a lot of nonprofits were really suffering. So I was invited to speak to over 100 nonprofits, teaching them and educating them how they can pivot their virtual events, like their biggest fundraising events. Because the clients that we help, guess what? All of them did really well. We even had one client that was a nonprofit that we helped. They were actually in the red at first. By the time we finished with them, they had the best fundraising event ever. And they just couldn't believe it because their board was like, how is this virtual event going to be amazing and help us with fundraising? But that's exactly what we accomplished, right? So we do it beyond just our corporate events. And we also do a lot of nonprofit drives. Like there's a homeless shelter right down here from our office. So we do, we collect different things that the homeless shelter needs. So we do that during our holiday. So this is really fun. And the fact that I could be part of a bigger community and be with other like-minded, whether it's businesses or entrepreneurs, that also wanted to give back to the community or be a mentor for future entrepreneurs, right? So it's beyond just me. When I think of me as an entrepreneur, I think of, yes, myself, my family, my business, but also my community. And then these three bubbles together makes me whole. And I'm very proud of that because when I leave with a legacy beyond just like my business. So I would like to challenge all of you guys today that, do something. If you're thinking about taking that leap of faith, this is that time. Don't think, a lot of people just think about all the fear. Get over the hump. If you don't take that first leap, if I didn't take that leap back in 2006, when I was 25 years old to start my first company, if I didn't take that leap when I was, 7 years ago to restart and build from the ground up another events agency, I would not be here today speaking with you all. And then now we'll open up for questions.
Amanda, I have to tell you, no matter how many times you say it, I'm still so impressed that you were able to retain everybody during the pandemic. I mean, an events company, you were doing an in-person events. So I just, congratulations to you for being able to do that and making that pivot, as you said. While we wait for some questions to come in, I couldn't help but think to myself, when you told me about kind of the title for today, the good, the bad, and the ugly of owning a business, there's so many things that you could have focused on. How did you come to know that focusing on culture, it seems like that is what you have decided is the most important thing for you running your business? What happened in your life that led you to believe that that might be the most important thing to focus on? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's super important because at first I just thought, I just hire good people. I hire smart people. I learned that from BU too. Like, when I just hire good people and then my company will be successful, right? But what ended up happening was it wasn't very clear what the company vision, what the company culture is. And people, I think even more now with the millennials, the first thing they ask in the interview is like, what's your company culture? And I'm so glad I have that prepared, right? But that's what makes you unique. And there's so many events agency out there. And it's not just in terms of your talent, like company culture is more than just your own company. We actually share that with our clients too. Is that this is our identity, right? So the people that usually retain us, they love that. And they know what we're about from the beginning. People who come here, right? One of our value is being proactive. So if you're not a proactive person, don't come here. If you just like to be told about what to do, like you will not fit in the company culture here, right? And also because a little bit selfish. I want to have some fun in my business. I don't want to just be work, because I am a little bit workaholic. I work a lot, right? So I need someone to help me have some fun in my life. So like building that company culture is so important. And I can tell you when I didn't have a company culture versus when we did have a company culture, it made a huge difference. And having that vision and understanding your why, right? Are you building this company so you can sell it? Are you building this company so you have a career or a job? Because sometimes people do that. They just start a company so they have a forever job. Yeah. Or are you building a company because you want to scale? Right. So my mission vision for my company is we do events, but I always say we're not an events company. We're a relationship company. We don't just do events. And when I hire people, I tell people that, right? We don't just do events here. If you're just here to pump out events, we're not the company for you. So if you're here, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but no. Borja is asking a question. It wants to hear more about your hiring process. You've touched on this a couple times, the importance of finding the right people, the importance of explaining your culture. Can you talk more about your interview process and how you ensure that candidates are a good fit in terms of both culture and skill set?
That's a great question, Borja. So first of all, I have the checklist that I've mentioned, and always interview everybody 3 times. And there are times, I can tell you earlier in my career, I was just like, oh my God, Jeff is awesome. After the first interview, I'm like, I want to hire him. And guess what? I hired Jeff and is literally it's a hit or miss.
It's a hit when you hire Jeff, but.
The turnover was much faster. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Right? That's why I didn't have a culture. I didn't share my vision and purpose. They're just coming here to do a job. So when they find another better opportunity or when they just want to move on, they move on because they did not see how they're involved with the bigger picture. Right? And then the hiring process, like some people are just so good at interview. And that's why I say 3 times. And then so my 3rd time, actually, I usually always have someone on my team interview them. And this actually happened earlier this year. I have someone from my team interview one of the candidates, and she was like, hey, did you notice this red flag? Right? And I was like, oh, I didn't. And there was another time I had my team interview, and the candidate actually withdrew herself. And I was like, what happened? I thought you really wanted this position. She's like, you know what? Like your team is so passionate about your company. They love it. They love doing events and they love working here. I just don't feel like I love events. She's like, I realized after the interview, I love marketing. Like she wants to do branding. She wants to do, you know what? That was fantastic because that just saved me so much time, right? Because when you hire someone after that, you have training, the work, then the real work start, But having that checklist is important and having really solid questions of asking them. I even ask, what kind of traveler are you? It's a very unconventional question. And they're always like, why? And we only do 20% of our work nationally or internationally, 80% is all in California, right? And the reason why, because it tells me, do they get to the airport on time? Are they last minute? Right? And being a good planner, I need them to be the type of person that likes to arrive early and just wait, right? We don't leave things to chances, but that tells me a lot. I ask them, do you have any siblings? Not to say the oldest child is always the most responsible one, but it just kind of share a little bit more about their insight. And one of my favorite questions to ask, and this is non-skill set related, is I say it at the end of my interview, probably usually the second or third. If I'm thinking I want to hire them, I would say, Jeff, tell me a joke. And that always catches people off guard. And you may ask me, Amanda, why are you asking that question? Because I want, by this time, I already know their skill set fit. Like the first one, the first interview is about, okay, is Jeff a good person? Is Jeff a good communicator? Right? Does he seem like he'll fit the culture here? Second interview is usually where I do like the skill set. Jeff, what's the BEO? Jeff, what's the AV? Jeff, what's the teleprompter? Things like that. What would you do in a, if we had 300 people coming from East Coast, I want to do a DMC event, blah, blah, blah. That's like very technical. And then by third one is just really, integrating all that. But the reason why I ask them to tell me a joke is I want someone who won't take themselves so seriously. Because there are moments in, professional life where you are encountered with these moments and you just have to be able to take a step back, switch your mindset and laugh it off, right? And with events, sometimes it could get really stressful. And that's why I just want, and then, you'd be surprised. I actually end up hiring someone who didn't tell me a joke on site. She's like, oh my God, I'm so bad with jokes. But just the fact that she communicated that versus like someone just like silent. Because I need someone who's able to think quick on their feet. Because that's what we do as planners, right? Like the flowers didn't show up. What do we do? Okay, let's put out some voters. Nobody will know, right? Like they need to think like that. So we do that, and that's teaching. And then, but then that lady ended up emailing me a joke, right? Now it shows me, see, she didn't know the answer, but she went to look for the answer, and she took the time to follow up with me. And one very important thing on my interview process is also, this sounds silly, but I also wait to see if they send a thank you card or thank you email. It's common courtesy. Are they just good people? And then we are in the business of service, right? So if you can't even take the time after I interview for an hour, just a quick thank you so much, Jeff. That was really amazing. I really appreciate how you share about BU and what you love about your job. I think I'll be a great fit here. Okay, check the box. Now they can move to the next cycle. So I'm very strict on my cycle, and if they don't hit it, they don't move to the next pipeline. But that's what works. Yeah.
I'm sitting here realizing that the only jokes I know are highly inappropriate and offensive. So I gotta learn some new ones. Ruth is wondering, her question is, how do you organize your workday to meet the challenges of recruiting and servicing clients? So any strategies that you use from day to day to manage all the things that need to get done?
Definitely. So first of all, I have a great job description so that you can just use it over and over. That's usually where I take the most time to curate that job description. But by now we have it, right? I use a software called Career Plug. So at the end of the event, I actually will be sharing with you guys a one-pager, so you guys could take a screenshot later. But it has a link to a website with all the business tools that we use here at the agency. So Career Plug is a hiring software that I use. And I used to have to post on Monster, post on LinkedIn. I don't do any of that now. I use software to make my job, to work smarter, essentially. I'm done with working hard. I just want to work smarter. So check out careerplug.com. But it sends out all the job description and posts it on different sites. And then when all the resume comes back, it centralizes the software, and it also has pipeline. Like when the best candidates on my team will filter, and then I interview the top 5, and from there they can move down the pipeline or not move down the pipeline. But everything is centralized in there. And I can even go back and say, oh my God, 5 years ago, I hired Jeff and he's still here and he's just phenomenal. What was it about him? So I actually will go back and look at Jeff's resume, and then that even have curated questions, right? Because I wanted to hire someone who's in Los Angeles at the time, who knows the landscape here, so they know other venues. I was like, oh my God, okay, Jeff was living here. So I was trying to find the common denominator in terms of what makes a candidate a success, that they will really excel and thrive here at my company.
How about on the client side, managing all the needs of all your clients? How do you manage those workloads? Are there software packages that you have that help you with that?
Yes, for sure. And you'll see in there, so all contract is digital, no more paper, because I just try to make the client's life easier. So all contract is digital. They sign it, they send it back so that they're not printing it out, signing it, scanning it, sending it back. You see how it's just like more time, right? All the payment, thanks to pandemic, now we used to get a lot more checks and now everything's streamlined, so it's wire. I think a lot of big companies, because we work with a lot of big companies, they weren't used to be so fond of these direct wires, but during pandemic that really shifted. So that's awesome. And with clients is setting a standard. So at our agency, I set up SOP, standard operating procedure. And that's what all our accounts manager follow. So no matter who's doing the project, they're doing the same thing, right? So I really bring the client, me and another business development person, we bring the client, we wrap it up, nice big bow, and then we send it to account manager. But one of the things that we started doing to level up our client experience recently is we actually have a video on all the account manager. So that say, okay, Jeff, you will be working, because there's the whole time you're talking to me, Amanda, and you like working with me. But I make it very clear in the beginning, you won't be working with me. You're working with my amazing team, right? So we actually even have a video on the account manager they will be working with. So they get to know them a little bit before they even start the project to build that connection.
So Seema has asked a sort of a two-part question. Obviously, something that's pretty universal among all entrepreneurs is clients. How do you, generating business, getting somebody to pay you for something? Can you talk a little bit about how your sort of your sales process? You're reaching out to clients for the first time. And certainly, now you have the benefit of sharing this like very impressive list of clients. But when you were first getting started, what specific strategies did you use in order to really, sell yourself and sell your business? What were the things that you did to get people to hire you?
That's a great question, Seema. I used back then, so I was young, right? So I was like, I'm so passionate about events. I'm so passionate about your business. Do your research. Always do your research. We still do our research. It's just that now I don't read the research. My team does it. But back then, you have to do your research, right? On what it is that they're looking for and ask them. Sell the fact that you are passionate. You will give them your all, right? Even I think back then we just said, give us a chance. You are our biggest client. Right? We didn't have TikTok and all these amazing clients. So they're our biggest client and you would do so much for them. And then make sure you do a fantastic job. Give your 110%. And literally, because that's how I started. Our first client wasn't famous. Right? And just you kind of build it up. You say, and you reach out, and you leverage that experience so that you can say, oh, I have done, a conference before. The first time we did a 3,000 people corporate family fun day event, I've never done one before. The client said, have you done one before? I say, no, but we have done this, right? So that made them confident, like, okay, they could do this event because they've done events for like 1,000 people event. I say, it's all the same. You really have to just be confident. If you're confident, your client's confident. And when you do get that project, just like Magic Johnson say, that's when the real work starts. And that's when you really need to shine and just like over deliver, always over deliver. Even nowadays, we over deliver. Because when you over deliver, people will come back and say, oh my God, they're amazing. Why do people come back to us? Because we over deliver every single time.
Kinza is wondering, mentioning that things have become, as you had said, everything that you dealt with when the pandemic hit must have been so overwhelming. Retaining your clients, retaining money, it's also difficult. They're wondering how, what do you do to manage all of that stress?
Another fantastic question. So I actually, during the pandemic, I picked up walking. So I do morning walks, and then that's also my time just for like, I'm a mother too. So they wake up at 6 o'clock. There's no silence in my house, right? But the morning walks is so refreshing for me. And I kind of work that out with my husband. I say, hey, in the morning, it's very helpful for me to go on these walks because when I don't, my mindset, my whole energy throughout the day is just so different. So even this morning, I went on a walk. When I go on the walk, I have a certain path. I just go on the same path every day. I'm usually listening to either audiobook or podcast. And a lot of time, I'm listening to things that are very encouraging, right? Especially when I think during the hardest time, that's when you need the most encouragement. During the hardest time, that's when you practice gratitude. The pandemic, I was like, I don't have this, I don't have, oh my God, all these are canceling, all this is, I was like, I have my health, I have my team, and I have emergency fund, and I think PPP is coming. I'm not sure. Right. And then being around the community, and that's why the community is also so important. So during that time, I'm part of this entrepreneur organization that I mentioned. I went to my forum and I said, you guys, I don't know if I'll be able to survive my company. And the next thing I know, they're all giving me suggestions, whether good or bad, but it was all great, right? And just writing down all these, and then for me to take home and marinate and just know all these people care. And they all took turns calling me. Say, hey, Amanda, how are you doing? And that felt so good. Just someone calling me and that they care. And we do this for all our forum members, right? When you know someone have a hard time, reach out to them because they'll appreciate it.
It's interesting. You just brought it all back to culture and community again. It's so neat to see those, like, the backbone, this theme that you've got that you return to time and time again. Well, Amanda, it was so awesome to hear your story. Thank you so much for sharing this and your experience with everybody. Do me a favor, let's bring your slide deck back up, because I know there's people might want to follow up with you, and so I want to make sure that we share your contact info and those things that I know that you've got on the end of your deck here.
Let's see. And I would love to hear from the audience, if you could just put it in the chat today, like, what was your biggest takeaway? I always love to know, like, what was your biggest takeaway, right? So I kind of heard from Jeff, just would love to hear from the rest of you. And you guys can follow us on Innovate MKG. And I will maybe I'll have Jeff pick out one winner. Oh, actually, I'm going to ask my question. So whoever put in the chat first, okay? Let me do this first. So this is the business tool that I mentioned. If you guys go to this link, you can screenshot it so you could go look at it later. But this is, if you go here, you could download these are all the tools that I use for my agency to make sure we're working smarter and working very effectively. So I put this together for you guys.
And we're going to send, Amanda, I think you gave us permission to share a copy of your slide deck with everybody. So I'll be sending that out to everybody probably tomorrow. So they don't necessarily have to jot down that exact link. They'll always have access to it.
Yeah. And then on that, she also has my access to LinkedIn. So you guys can find me on LinkedIn as well. And this is how you can reach me. Yeah.
Great.
But I will put in the chat. Let me ask that question so I could give this present away. Like, how many virtual events do we do since the pandemic?
Oh, I remember what that number was. I guess staff can't win. Oh, looks like Danny was the first one.
Awesome. Okay, Danny, if you want to private chat me real quick, your mailing address, we'll get this kit sent out to you within the week. Congratulations. Yes, we did over 130 virtual events.
Danny, I'll make sure that we get Amanda your, you can please feel free to go ahead and just send a chat to all panelists. Great, Danny. And we'll make sure that we get that prize. And Amanda, thank you for doing that. That's really, really sweet of you. Well, we've run up against our hour. Amanda, this was awesome. I really enjoyed hearing your story. And I'm also a Questrom alum. It's so neat to see somebody who has taken so many risks. I myself don't think of myself as a risk taker, and it's really neat to see the way that you've taken those leaps of faith and the way that it's resulted in it. I can just tell, like, you've got it coming off of you that you're so passionate about what you do, and I love the way that you feel so strongly about the people that work for your company and taking care of them. So anyways, on behalf of everybody at BU, I wanted to thank you for your time today, and I really appreciate you doing this for us.
Thank you so much. Make sure you put in the address or send it to Jeff, and Jeff can send it to me.
I'll make sure if Danny doesn't message their address to you, I'll make sure that we make it happen. Amanda.
Awesome. So, thank you so much for having me. You guys are incredible. Go out and conquer the world.
I also want to thank all of our guests for participating today. I specifically want to thank those of you who've donated to BU in the past. We really appreciate your support. And my parting wisdom, I want to make sure that all of you join, if you haven't already, BU Connects. You can see that above me floating mysteriously. BU Connects is our brand new online networking and mentoring community. It's an amazing place to advance your career. Alumni can find fellow grads in their industry or people with similar interests to network with, to leverage their professional networks and get introduced to people they should know. If you're a student, you can meet BU alumni like Amanda, who've been in your shoes and now who can help open doors. Amanda mentioned she's hiring right now. My pro tip for you is that you can save a bunch of time and you can actually create your profile on BU Connects by signing in with your LinkedIn credentials and be up and running and networking within minutes. We have nearly 40 special interest and industry-based interest networking groups that you can join. Sign up now, start networking at buconnects.com. So thank you again, everybody. Thank you again, Amanda. This was really awesome.
My pleasure.
I hope everybody has a great day or a great evening wherever you might be. Take care.